welcome to a very special Valentine's Day edition of the NBPOLI pod. My name's Joanna Killen. I'm here with my co-host, Brent Harris.
I'm Brent Harris. Yes, we are here with the lovely decor of the background of this fireside chat. For those of you listening to the audio podcast, we are playing with the mic here a little bit, but there is a nice roaring fire in the background while we get pounded down here in St. John with some freezing rain and some ice pellets. And
yes.
Kids
are hoping for a 2 days off school. Today was done, but now it's getting real messy out there. So we'll see what happens. So we are here in Menaquis, the unceded territory of the Wet'suwet'en, Mi'kmaq, and Pescatawamacati peoples.
Absolutely.
And we thought we would do a basically like love it or hate it episode and go through a bunch of sort of rapid fire topics. And then do we love it? Do we hate it? How are we feeling about all these?
What are the details? Who's the who's and what's the what's?
Yeah.
We're well into February now. So fingers crossed, guys, in 3 weeks, guys, gals, folks.
Yeah.
In the next 3 to 4 weeks, we'll be tapping trees for maple syrup.
Yes.
Got to make that call here on a New Brunswick podcast since maple syrup's one of our big exports.
Yes. Capitalize.
And we're heading into an era where exports are going to be very important to know about and where they go. So anyway, yeah, that's coming up. And hopefully we don't have a winter dragging on. Because I got to say, I've been working in an abandoned building that we're trying to bring back for folks who need housing here in the city. And we've been working in minus 12, minus 15, minus 6, minus 8. It's like
super cold.
There's no heat in the building except for one room where we have our breaks and stuff. And it's just like, oh my gosh, can we please get past winter? But that's the classic Canadian drudgery, and darn it, we're stronger for it.
Yes, I saw Wob Canoe on Instagram posting a video how they're down in Washington and they brought the snow with them, which is such a classic Canadian joke. So we're going to talk a little bit about this Washington mission here in a minute.
Yep.
But first, we're going to talk about we got a little write-in.
Yeah, dear friend of the pod, we're talking OG. Sorry, I just dropped my pen. We're talking OG supporter of the pod, Mark Brewer, who we've talked to. Who also has, of course, the pod we've shouted out a few times, the NB Traveler podcast. Mark's a really interesting guy. He said, listen to the pod, trying to figure out what the purpose was. Would the pulp mill becoming able to produce all its energy needs be a good thing? Is there anything positive the Holt government's doing? Let's have lunch. Well, Mark, we're absolutely going to have lunch. I miss our little lunch dates. The last 2 months, though, I have been absolutely swamped with this Hammers to Homes program. Thank you so much to Minister Townsend, who made that sort of get across the finish line for us. However, we just lost Minister Townsend from the cabinet because of very unfortunate brain cancer. I mean, it's very public. She's made this very well known to people of what she's going through, and you never want to see that in anyone. I was really hoping to be able to share with Allison, who's been you've mentioned Allison's sort of fervor for women involvement in different things in the past, and we have 3 women in this Hammers to Homes course who are doing phenomenally well. One of which maybe even be able to be moving into this affordable housing project when we finish it. So I really thought that would be up her alley. So, I mean, not that she's going anywhere. We're all hoping for a recovery and remission and all that. But we do have a new minister in the Office of Post-Secondary Education, Training, and Labor. So that's some New Brunswick Poli news. It's worth mentioning.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Allison's a big proponent for especially marginalized folks. One of the ways I have encountered her was where she was helping sponsor women to get into different leadership programs and on her own, just like kind of on the side on her own. And it was very lovely to see her to try to take up that cause. And you could tell that she really cared about her file and everything else with GNB. So hopefully she's back sooner than later. because she was a great minister for the short time she was there.
Yeah, well, she would have really, I think, had dug her teeth into this if she had the, the margin to do so. So anyway, shout out goes to Allison. But back to you, Mark. We're going to have lunch. That's why I've been busy. That's why. And honestly, that's why the last pod was a little bit rushed.
Yeah.
Us trying to find in between times where I'm gangbusters for this 6 weeks for this program, which I've worked for 2 years to try to get off the ground and all this stuff. So it's, it's time to make hay. Unfortunately, the sun shines, but it's still cold as hell. So that's why we rushed that last pod a little bit. I thought we had a good discussion. We started to kind of broach some of the topics that are starting to make news. And we're going to play, like Joanna said, game of love it or hate it. And the thing about love it or hate it is that it does force us into absolutism.
We have to have a camp.
Yeah.
There's 2 camps.
So there's no, I kind of like it.
Yeah.
It's you either have to love it and find a reason to love it, or you have to hate it and find a reason to hate it.
Yeah.
And you know what? We've talked about this little task in groups before. Sometimes it's helpful to have a friend that you can perform a little bit of political drama with, because sometimes going to an extreme helps people to find an appropriate middle ground.
Yes. And I think it's funny, there's a lot, like you've been posting quite a bit. I've taken a bit of a social media holiday besides pictures of our baby. Yeah. But people are asking you to say, like, I believe in Carney. Brent, what do you think about Energy East?
Yeah, are you going to get a shovel and go frack or not?
Yeah, like big dramatic questions about where do you stand, sir?
Yeah.
So I thought it would be good to just, hey, let's tell everyone where we stand on some of these big hot topic issues that are happening right now.
Let's get some hot takes on some hot topics. So number one, love it or hate it.
Yes.
Susan Holt's trip to Washington.
Susan goes to Washington. I think that's like a cartoon or something. I think I love it personally. I love seeing all those premiers there together. Ones who are diametrically different, seeing Danielle Smith cuddled up with Wab Canoe, it's like mind blowing to see. But, they're united under this one cause. And there was a picture of her today with Susan Collins, who's the governor now of Maine. And you can see that they're kind of trying to squirrel their way into the offices of Congress people and senators and business leaders. Luke Randall is with them on this mission from the New Brunswick camp. And he brought JDI, Cook Aquaculture, Mrs. Dunster's, and one other one, probably McCain or something. But they hosted like a business NB, like mixer type of thing to try to bring more folks in. So you can see them visibly playing out a strategy, which I think they would have had to come up with rather quickly and execute on, in a whole other country, in a whole other city. So it's like, I love it for them. I'm happy that they're doing it.
Yeah, if I could be on the fence with this one, I would. Mm-hmm. I would be more tepid to say love it. So because I'm on the fence, I'll take the hate it.
Okay.
The reason I hate it, and again, not because...
Where do you stand,
Luke,
Harris?
if you're listening to this, or Susan, if you're listening to this, take this with, a grain of salt, but also take it with some intention, some seriousness, because I think the reason I hate it is we're down there with those guys.
Yeah.
We're down there with the status quo interests of the province. Yeah, they're heavy hitters, but one could make the argument, and I have, that those heavy hitters really have gotten us into the position we are in. We can't forget New Brunswick has some of the worst outcomes economically, socially, in our education system, healthcare wise. Like we're not dead last on everything. Don't hear me the wrong way. But I would say for a province that has 870,000 people with that many billionaire corporations and that many billionaires in it, and Cook Aquaculture is now the biggest private fishery in the world. Like,
yeah,
it just, would our time not be better spent here trying to reimagine the economy we need?
Yeah, right.
Do we have to go down there? Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Does Luke have to go down there? Maybe. But this is the economic transformation time that we really needed to do years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of should have read the writing on the wall, if you will, when Trump first put substantial tariffs on this country and tore up NAFTA to recreate CUFSA. And, you know, even Trump aside, that should have woken us up to the fact that, you know what, this dance partner of ours in economics isn't necessarily happy. And there's a political appetite in that country for disruption in some of these things. So anyway, so I'm going to say hate it.
Fair enough. No, it's fair to say. And I do think that both things can happen at once. I know
possibly
that the chair of the Atlantic Canadian, Chamber of Commerce said that there's already programs out there for helping businesses export to other countries, beyond the US and things like that. And if you need anything, just let us know. These programs are open. So that was something that was brought up in the news, as something that is ongoing and has always been ongoing in terms of Export Canada and organizations.
But my problem with those companies is they're passively waiting for companies to have the gumption
to step forward
and like, I want to go after a market in Congo. I want to go after a market in southern France. They're waiting for someone to come to them with it and say, well, maybe we'll give you a couple of grand for a business plan, or maybe we'll give you $20,000 to hire a consultant to help. There is that, but the reality is, I think of Brazil as a perfect example. The Brazilian steel company, Brazil's not known for steel. Many economists would have looked at the Brazilian steel company and said, failing company. Why? Because it's spending more to get worse outcomes compared to other companies. But the thinking of the Brazilian government was, we need a functional steel corporation in this country, and we are going to fund it, even though it's going to lose, because that's going to create cheap steel on our market for all the other manufacturers that need steel and all the other producers that need steel. They'll have a Brazilian option that is reliable from here for here. And no, we don't care that this Brazilian steel company is, top 10 on the market, right? And they did the same with forestry. And we've heard Jim Irving talk about this.
Yes.
Right? We've heard Jim Irving talk about how Brazilian forestry can operate at such a loss and all this stuff. And we have to get these kind of tax breaks because we can't compete with that. And that's exactly it, right? In some ways, it's like you can't wait haphazardly. We do have to have more of an active quarterbacking role. But anyway, we'll talk more about that on the tariff question.
Okay, so what's our next one?
Susan's deficit.
Oh, yeah. So this is the fodder of conservatives.
Excuse me, guys. Sorry.
Everywhere right now is that there's, a deficit. I love a deficit. I've always been a fan of that. I think it's ridiculous that we are trying to balance a budget in times of crisis and in a post-pandemic world and in a housing crisis and in a food security crisis and. This isn't the time to save. It's the time to ensure that everyone has what they need as they navigate these tough times. And so I hate to see how the reaction is online, because it's a big, I told you so, of course.
Told you so, yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And I don't doubt that the Higgs government left some sort of mess in there that was, that was not, obviously travel nurses and things like that. So I'd love to see a deficit. I think it's been a long time coming that we've needed this.
Yeah, well, there's no question. We've gutted programs and we've had terrible outcomes on all fronts. But the reason I hate it,
I know where this is going to go mostly.
No, I don't think it is, because it's like we're spending $400 million, and is that going to noticeably transform anything?
Right.
Sure. There were certain things said at the State of the Province. Sure, there is this statement that was made by the finance minister to say, look, we're sticking with some of these costly promises because we committed to it and we're going to do it. And come what may, $400 million deficit. Well, it's $399 or
yes,
$98.
$399 million.
Yeah. Whatever, whatever. We're going to do it. So in some ways, that's good. That's accountable. That's transparent. People voted for that. And that's what they got. In other ways, I think, do we not have an opportunity to transform things and to really put in the window, we're going to spend the $200 million here.
Yeah.
Because not only because we said we'd do it, but here's what it's going to do. Here's the outcome difference we expect it to make.
Yeah.
Here's what we're aiming for. This $100 million or $200 million expense, like wherever it's at,
yeah,
$5 million. This $5 million additional investment is going to shoot at this. This is our shot. We're shooting it there. We want it to achieve that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the housing front did get some attention. That's great. But quite honestly, it didn't seem like those targets for NB housing were difficult that they were trying to
like
achieve.
The 2030.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Deficits I like.
Yes.
In times like this.
Yes.
However, I guess I just hate it because I don't know what it's going to do.
No, I know. It's not clear as to where that's all going to go. I know they're saying like these are the top 3 areas.
Right.
But it's like, are we still paying for the travel nurses? Like what
if you could say,
you break down for us.
Yeah, if you could say we're spending this extra money and we hope that you spend 45 minutes less in the ER next year.
Because of this spend.
But that's you're committing to something.
Yeah,
and that's what we've always known is their kryptonite. They don't want to commit to an actual outcome.
No.
They want to talk about outcomes.
Yes.
They want to talk about change. They want to talk about making it better without actually putting in the window what the outcome is.
Yeah, exactly. Like but they did say, did they actually say how many people would have a family doctor? I don't know if that was I don't think that was a promise actually, because that was floated around there a little bit, but like stuff like that, that's really concrete, where you can say like 75% of New Brunswickers will have a family doctor. Yeah,
we're at 73, we're going to get 75, then we're going to get 77, 79, it's going to take whatever. Mm-hmm. So anyway.
Okay, next.
If you hear Beatrix squawking, she's just over here in the swing. If you're listening to the audio, you can probably hear a little hum of the fireplace. It has a little fan inside of it, blowing heat on us here.
We never usually have a set. So.
We don't have a set. This is like our set. Like we got a mic here. And stuff. Anyway, all for the viewing pleasure of Rogers TV. We got our hearts. We got our little lion from 1908 when this house was built by a master carpenter.
Yeah,
we're very happy to live in and lucky, and
so lucky.
Also, can't afford it. So
we love it.
We love it.
Okay.
Glenn Savoy's leadership with the Progressive Conservative Party of New Brunswick.
Oh, you go first.
I hate it. Surprise, surprise. Cantankerous Harris over here. That's it's just like, man, you had a person, you had a cult of personality around a person. You had MLAs jumping ship. You had credible people leave the party and choose not to run. You had really like contentious figures like Fatine running to try to make the party sort of like that example of Donald Trump. Like, this new group of people get interested in politics. They show up, they organize, they overcome, a difficult task of getting Blaine Higgs elected where he was unpopular, and they failed. And they failed categorically. Like, they could have failed worse if the Green Party hadn't have split the vote on 4 ridings. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
Glenn, my God, man. You have an opportunity to reform this party into something.
Yes.
Maybe the temptation here is to say, let's see what the membership comes up with. But like, Moses said it to us in the Bible, without vision, the people perish. And it is one of these things where there isn't room in leadership. And it's like, okay, here's Brent, not a political party leader. And like, who is he? Sorry. Who is he to say any of this? But like, when you look at parties that have had to reform themselves, just from a historical lens, whoever that next person is has to provide something. Like even Andrew Scheer.
Yeah.
As
interim as he could be.
As interim as he could be, and ran an election and failed again, as bad as that was, Aaron O'Toole, you could say the same thing. They brought a vision and put something on the table with some details, with some engagement, with a direction, and they stuck by it. And yeah, they failed, but at least there was something to be able to say, oh, I don't mind being a part of this for that reason because they're there saying this. We haven't heard anything.
No, it's been really quiet. And I know there's been some comments, like I know CBC and a few others have, like, in scrums and whatnot. Like, of course, this budget one probably had a quote or two, but that's what it feels like. It's almost like just this reactionary piece. It's not proactive. You're not really seeing any of the rebuilding. Like, we talked a lot about how these folks could rebuild after, a ton.
Yeah.
But I've yet to see it. But I have seen a few different, like, kind of little gatherings that they've been hosting. Paul Dempsey randomly is actually quite active online in
so is your nemesis.
So is Kim Costine, yeah. That's Beatrix. So is Kim. Like, they're still sticking around, which I was kind of surprised at. Like, they don't seem to be going anywhere. So, maybe the new blood will come in and kind of start to do that. But I'm with you. I don't see anything that's happening.
Yeah. It's disappointing because there is an empty net to score on here, or at least take a shot on. I mean,
just something.
But
they always play their cards close to their chest, I find. Like, until they're the ones that are out there, like, they're not really going to be sounding off until they're in the legislature and, doing their critic thing.
Yeah, there just is a real vacuum of leadership right now.
Yeah.
And, Glenn's been there long enough.
Maybe he's just holding the seat, keeping it warm for
sure.
Person. Yeah.
For sure. And interim leaders have that role. However, if you're trying to inspire people to get involved in the next leadership campaign, like, you've got a Pierre Poilievre type on the docket. You've got some conservative breakthroughs in places like BC. You've got some really outspoken leaders out there like Doug Ford and Danielle Smith. So there's a conservative brand in Canada that's quite alive.
Yes, absolutely.
But it is unclear to any of us political watchers what side of that spectrum we're on. All right, we're back. Fresh log on the fire. Fresh baby here. Recently woken up from a nap. We'll be trading her back and forth. If you hear any squawks, welcome to the new world, NBPOLI, bud. I don't know what to tell you. There's going to be a baby in the mix. It's one of a kind. It is what it is.
Sure is. One of a kind podcast.
So Glenn Savoy, both hate it.
Yeah, not a fan.
Come on, pal. Like, do something.
Liven this party up.
Like, start being like, be the baseball bat swinger for Doug Ford or Tim Houston or Danielle Smith. Pick a lane. Jim Rustad, doesn't matter. You've got some wins in this country, and now it's time to pick a lane and find a vision that you can get behind. New Brunswick is not a place where you're going to get sort of revolutionary, transformative leadership. Blaine Higgs is as close as we've come to that in a long time, and he lost.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work here.
No.
Don't try it again.
But let's see what you can do.
Let's see what you can do.
What's the next one that we have down there?
Number 4.
Sorry.
The Liberal leadership race.
Oh, goodness. Who do you stand for?
Who are you behind anyway? Yeah, that's come up a number of times.
Yes. Oh, boy. I love it because it's starting to kill Poilievre's momentum, which is a great thing. Like, we can't do that. Like, that's just a hard no. And as much as I love PR, proportional representation, which we've talked about multiple times on here, I truly realize that we are still trapped in this world, unfortunately, where we do have to go with a lesser evil. So, I mean, I don't think I love the leadership race because I just see the same thing that we've been doing happening again.
It's a bit of love it, hate it.
Yeah.
I love
to hate it.
I love parts of it. I hate other parts of it.
Yeah.
That's fair. Like you can, I think, you know, as long as we don't sit on the fence with this game.
No, it's like parts of it. Like, I don't love that this is who we have to choose from, but I do love that it has taken away some of that energy around Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives. It really has.
You know what? I'm going to say I love it.
Okay.
So I'm going to say I categorically love it. And what I don't love is that we still don't have a working class hero in any political party. That would be my dream. You know, I don't care if it's a lefty. I don't care if he's a centrist. I don't care. It's just please give us somebody who works a factory floor or swings a hammer or pushes a broom or you know, somebody who does. I don't even care if it's a base level bookkeeper or an accountant. Yeah. Like Jack Layton was a used car salesman. That was as close as we've come in a long time to having anybody that looks like a normal Canadian who, like, the thing is it's like, I just don't believe people like Mark Carney or Karina Gould or Chrystia Freeland or Pierre Poilievre are special. They're not. They're not more capable than anybody. And so the fact that we keep putting people like that in front is a bit like, you know what? I get it, but I also don't believe in it. And I hate having to say I told you so all the time. So I love the piece, like you said. Yeah. I love that it's taking away the nursery rhyme campaign of Pierre Poilievre, where we are just going to stop the crime and spin the tin and axe the tax and blah, blah, blah. And like, garbage. And like his housing video that he did that time.
Oh my goodness.
Like anybody who spends more than 2.5 hours actually trying to understand real estate and leasing's relationship with our economy sees through that instantly. Everybody else who doesn't want to spend any time will fall for it. Of course, it's got millions of views. It's popular, but it's dumb. And so I'm happy that we finally have some competition. Yes. And it's unfortunate that it's not people like Charlie Angus.
I know.
With the NDP. It's unfortunate that it's Jagmeet Singh.
But I think it really does highlight how difficult it is to be involved at that level and just to even be an MP. Like we're seeing now Wayne Long return. It would have been a huge uphill battle for any person who would have tried to go for that nomination. And, you know, in St. John, I don't know how this looks across the province, but there's some contention over this Conservative nomination. Like there's rumors that the Poilievre team is trying to drop somebody in here from somewhere across the country that we don't know.
Well, they're going to have to.
Then there's the local candidates who believe that they should be absolutely up for it. And so there's some inner turmoil happening there.
There always is.
Yeah.
But the reality is there's nobody in this political climate right now in St. John or this region that has enough gravitas for the Conservatives to win.
No, it's true.
Against a calculated sort of semi-name recognition liberal.
Yeah.
There's nobody that has a chance.
No, and Wayne certainly has name recognition.
Now, of course, we know our friend Don Paulin is going to run for the NDP.
Yes, yeah.
And Don would be a great working class candidate. A nurse, somebody who's had, you know, multiple layers of education, somebody who's served in multiple areas of the community. Yeah. Unfortunately, Don has a very difficult national brand to try to deal with. Live with. So it's like, I mean, high five to Don.
Yes.
Do we love? I mean, Wayne has results you can't argue with, right? Like, you can call yourself a leftist, you can call yourself a centrist, you can call yourself a libertarian, whatever. You can't argue with somebody like Wayne who has been able to navigate a mainline party, be an outsider, get results delivered for your port, for your airport, for your different layers of investment, for residential construction, you name it. Like, there's just, compared to Rodney Weston, there's just a plethora of results to point to.
And he's super accessible. There's a part of me that feels a little bit bad for Wayne because he's throwing so much weight behind Mark Carney. Like,
I know.
If Carney kind of leaves him behind or does something in the future, like you know what I mean? Like, it just feels
he's
like
putting a lot on the table. And Wayne, shout out to Wayne. He just lost his mom.
Yeah, so. That is terrible. Yeah. Sorry for that epic loss, Wayne. I know she was very close with you, and honestly, like, I just feel like he's been sort of done dirty by the Liberals, but he's always been so loyal to them. So it's one of these like moments where your heart kind of feels for
you're
somebody.
Worried.
I'm worried for Wayne
like,
Hart.
someone like Mark, who's going to like. This is the question. This is so the notable difference right now between Mark Carney and Michael Ignatieff, who everybody said he's going to be like, or
right.
Exactly. It's very exciting. There's a lot of energy. But the thing about Mark, he's not Michael Ignatieff.
No.
He doesn't seem to be bending to whoever this mystery influencer, liberal, partisan liberal type was that seemed to just take Michael Ignatieff. Because when we listened to Michael Ignatieff on a podcast recently, like, this guy would be phenomenal to have anywhere near the levers of power.
Yeah.
But there probably isn't a more colossal failure of a liberal leader in the last 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
You might say, Turner or whatever. Like, really, though, it was really stagnant. Stéphane Dion, you could say.
Yeah.
But I don't think so.
It was just such a
short-lived and one-term, one-hit wonder. Anyway, so it's like, hopefully Mark can continue to show some gumption, and that he has a vision, not that includes Wayne so much as it includes people who are willing to throw a punch, land a punch, or get punched and still stick in the ring, right? Because that's what we can say about Wayne.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's
constituents first.
He's thrown a punch at Justin Trudeau.
Yep.
He's landed punches at Justin Trudeau, and he's received punches from Justin Trudeau and that wing of the Liberal Party. So
we don't want oppression within the Liberal Party.
No, like
around. So hopefully Mark's a better dude on that front, because Justin obviously wasn't.
But we don't know.
We don't know.
Maybe we'll get Wayne and Mark on the podcast.
Power corrupts. Yeah.
Okay. Trump's White House. We talked about it a little bit.
Yes. I feel like people think we're wading too far outside of our wheelhouse with Trump.
Oh, frig off, guys. This is our podcast. We'll talk what we want.
Yeah, I hate it beyond anything else. Like, I'm glued to the news about all of the various sort of democratic rights that are being ripped away piece by piece for these poor folks. And I did love Elon Musk's son being a little brat to Trump, though. That was pretty funny, because the kid was telling him to shush, and you're not the president.
I want to shush you.
Yeah, and you're not the president. So he was being pretty hilarious, but
everybody says Elon Musk is really the president.
Well,
Donald's just the figurehead.
Do you remember what did I think is No Country for Old Men?
Yes.
And there's that oil baron, and he always has the little child with him.
Yes.
That's what people are likening Elon bringing the babies along with him, because it's sort of like it's trying to humanize him.
Yeah.
By look at we're just like Elon.
Look, you're politicians with the baby.
Yeah, but he's not a politician, and he is in fact a oligarch who's inserted himself into the federal government. Yeah. And now Trump looks so weak and feeble, sitting at a desk while he's towering over him with this small child.
With the next generation.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting, because you bet your bottom dollar, Barron and Donald are going to be up against Elon
and X, I think his name is
Elon, and
AEX-13, something like that.
Oh my gosh, yeah, whatever his kids' names are. It's going to be a battle for the future of the party. Elon is trying to insert himself now because he knows Donald only has one election in him. He can't be president twice.
Unless they get that bill passed, which some Georgian congressperson.
Oh, yeah. They're going to try to make him a king.
Yeah.
There's no question. And if they make him a king, we'll get back hereditary rule. And if we get hereditary rule, Barron Trump or Donald Trump Jr., although I think Donald Trump Jr. is way out of favor.
Yeah. You don't see those boys around as much as you do.
Yeah, you don't see Ivanka. You don't see, anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But you didn't say, do you love it or hate it?
Oh, I hate it.
Okay.
Absolutely. And there's, some good commentary online about how a lot of this stuff really isn't even like Trump is just kind of the puppet dude. And there's just all these other way more extremely wealthy people.
The ironic thing is
pulling levers.
So I hate it.
Yes, of course.
And love it.
Okay.
So here's the part I hate. I hate the part that it's basically going to side rail any potential improvements we make in the democratic institutions around the world.
Yes.
No one's going to be out there battling for democracy.
No.
Even though, the Americans did battling for democracy on many occasions, but they also funded pro-democratic groups. They also attempted to try to elevate the conversation on the need for democracy all through the 80s, all through the 90s and early 2000s. Yes, they did a job. They declared war. They went to Mogadishu.
Someone said no American has ever really won a war they started.
Yeah.
They won wars they were part of, but not actually.
Well, there's a pretty famous guy going around talking about how weak the American system really is now.
Yeah.
When you look at all these things and how hard it's struggled with all this. I don't know. I'm not going to comment on that. But I hate that we're losing a lot of
the ground
prowess around democracy. Like the only country that's really the only country that's making ground around the democratic conversation is Ukraine.
Yeah.
And Beatrix has an opinion about that, or she at least wants to chew my thumb. But Ukraine is standing fast, right? And they are attempting to do their best around maintaining their democracy. I heard that at the Invictus Games in British Columbia, they got the loudest cheers, even louder than Canada's.
Wow.
Very amazing, very inspiring, big moment. Might be their last moment.
Yeah.
God only knows. However, it's like, who's left to fight for the primacy of democratic engagement and democratic development? It's fading quick. And I'd hate to see us devolve into a world where we said, well, we all tried democracy for 200 years.
Didn't work.
We're going to go back to whatever it was before.
Yeah.
I do think we're at a point where that's possible.
Oh, so what do you love?
So what I love is that we're going to get a chance to see how fully, right? What I love is, I see people like Destiny, and I see a couple other debaters online on TikTok calling Trump people to task. Hey, did you vote for Trump? Why? Well, I like his policies. Can you name one policy? Crickets.
Yeah.
Time after time after time. Oh, well, he's going to end inflation. Well, what do you mean? Ever since he became president, the price of gas and eggs have gone up. Oh, well, he's only been in there 1 week. Oh, so wait, are you saying that just because of the fact that he's president, it doesn't get better?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you got to give him time. So when and how did Kamala Harris and Joe Biden cause inflation?
Yeah.
And then it's crickets. Like, you can see the breakdown of us distracted voters who are dumb. And I'm dumb on things too. Don't hear me saying it's just you, but like, you can see the breakdown of it in some of these moments. And like, that's, a subcategory of the world.
So in a sense that you love, like, because I see it too, there's a ton of people on there right now who are explaining why they regret their vote for Trump, because it's all of a sudden affected them personally. And I think that is what this is going. You hate that it is going to affect people personally, but you love that for the fact that it is going to wake them up.
Yeah. I hate the fact that we're going to lose probably a generation of momentum around democracy.
Yeah.
But
people will actually value it. It's like you take something away from somebody that they didn't know, that they took for granted. It is like, that is the reaction. That is 100%.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Right. I think fascism did that for Germany.
Yes.
You would never say, hey, let's have a Gestapo and, fascist takeover so we can wake up. That's not the ideal.
No.
But if the outcome is we stop doing half and we start realizing, okay, we're now going to codify these things.
Yeah.
Because we had to learn the lesson that, we were fooled once, we've been fooled twice.
Yeah, like we batted around to say for the states, it is like the abortion piece. Like we batted around not codifying Roe versus Wade.
Yeah.
for multiple successive governments.
Yep.
So we shouldn't, when issues that are important to us as Democrats, we shouldn't do that anymore, etc. That's fair.
Anyway,
Cool.
that's that
I
one.
get it.
Okay.
Look at that nuance.
All right.
He loves the Trump government.
David Coon's Substack. Love it or hate it.
Oh yeah, I love it. Love that David's trying new things, you know. There's just like so much to be looking at, and like I think there was a little bit of a lull after the election where he wasn't as pointed online, and this is kind of like bringing back that that energy again, where he supports a deficit in one of the later writings that we just saw, and he is starting to look at how there should be not just a breakfast program but a lunch program, and so there's more pointedness coming from the Greens again, and so I appreciate that. There needs to be some kind of opposition that's not just don't spend money. That's the conservative side of it.
Yeah. We told you to have a deficit there.
Yeah.
Tax and spend liberals. Yeah.
So
man, I'm torn on this because I love it and hate it too. But let's just live
you're
with.
not supposed to do that.
No, I know. We'll just go with love it. I love it. We need David to be out there doing stuff. We need a voice. But my God, do we need it on a range of issues?
Yeah.
And do we ever need? The thing is about David Coon that I realized, he isn't really an idealist on all kinds of fronts. He's quite a pragmatist.
Right.
He has hard nose. Oh, my fire poker. He has things that he's hard no on.
Yeah.
And usually that's anything that's going to degrade the environmental system, which fair enough.
Yes.
100%. But then he has a whole range of could be that way, could be this way. Definitely not that way. But what about these things? Like between he and Megan, they're worth 10 MLAs.
Yeah.
Between the two of them, because they see the system. They've got some memory about what isn't working and what is. They're smart people. They apply themselves, and they have to, because they're not going to break through and get noticed any other way. Unlike, so you could say David Coon and Megan Mitten are getting more results in the political conversation in New Brunswick than all the PCMLAs. Baby break. Oh, baby break. Yeah, I would say the Greens are with all the PCMLAs.
Yeah.
Like, they're true to their vision to a fault. They lost a seat over being authentic and genuine and true to their vision.
Yeah.
My dad, it's funny, my dad, Morris, he's
political.
He's political. He pays attention, but we really should be growing a lot more of our own food. And I'm like, oh my God, it's finally starting to wear off on him. Like, I finally started to indoctrinate him.
Yes, you have.
Just bring everybody close. But I heard him saying that. And I'm like, Dad, but you know what? We've tried. Like, you've all heard me talk about this. We've heard you talk about it. We feel like we're in political purgatory because, running 2.5 elections, because I got involved in 2018 election for the Greens to a more minor extent. I got involved with the party after that. I ran in 20. I led a campaign with you, or I led your managed your campaign in 24. It's like, you can only lose so much before you're like, okay, if this isn't working, let's try something else.
Yeah.
I'm not somebody who's like, hey, it didn't work. Oh, it didn't work again. Let's keep trying. Like the definition of insanity kind of deal, right? However, there's always a place for sticking true and staying true and sticking with it. I get that. But it's, I said to Dad, like, there's a great country out there that's done a number of good things policy-wise. It's in Holland, the Dutch Farmers Union, they have seats in actually, I think they're the ruling party right now. I may not be getting the exact name of the party correct, but the farmers of Holland are deeply politically active with vision and membership and organization and victories and you name it. And what does Holland have? It has a 3 or 4 to 1 ratio of food sovereignty, where they produce 3 to 4 times as much as they need. And they did that through greenhouses. They did that through vertical farming.
They don't have a lot of space. Like we have the advantage of space. And your dad was talking about, driving up in rural New Brunswick and just how much space there would be for indoor hydroponic growing operations and to grow our own food. And we said this last week, we got to get Fred LaForge back on here because our food system is so intricately tied with the US that, there's these Buy Canadian sites now that are running rampant on Facebook. And there's essentials like formula and diapers and things like that are pretty hard to connect with in this country. So there's so much, and it's not just even growing fresh food, it's manufacturing processed foods. And we have, mentors, if you will, in the space, like the McCains, in the cooks. So there are companies, Mrs. Dunster's is another good example, where you can make, if you're making bread or you're making fish or you're making potato chips or potato French fries, covered bridge. Yeah. Like there's some really good examples of that. So that too, it's not even just the fresh piece. It is the processed as well. And then those essentials, like, I'm into some baby mode, but formula diapers, things like that.
Yeah. My response to Dad was, well, we put it in front of them 3 times and New Brunswickers didn't pick it. So they clearly don't want food sovereignty. They clearly don't want transformative approaches to government. They clearly don't want anything to really distinctively change. Yeah. They want tinkering around the edges. Yeah. Right.
Until there's a trade war. And then all of a sudden, like, my sisters own a business called Rising Tide Gifts. It's for like NB Box, if you will. And they didn't have like the best Christmas this past year because the buy local thing kind of wore off and everyone felt more comfortable.
Well, it wasn't as prevalent as it was until February.
Yeah. And then now it's like all of a sudden it's gangbusters again. And so when we do put our focus on things like this, we are really effective. So that's why it's hard to go through these elections, because you feel like we're so capable. We're so almost there. We're just like, we could touch it. And then it's just dashed. Yeah. For a mindset that I don't understand, for a voter turnout that doesn't represent everybody, for, there's so many frustrating things around it. And you just end up feeling like, oh, it's what they wanted. Okay, never mind. They don't want me. They don't want these ideas. No. They want what they already have. Just light.
They want
light version.
Yeah. So far, and liberals will hate me for saying this, but so far, what New Brunswickers have told me they want was more or less the same thing as the progressive conservatives with a better tone. Yeah. And it's like
a nicer tone.
Okay, if that's what you want. And that's why I love part of the Donald Trump thing, because it's like, fine, give these idiots what they want and let them see that it's not that simple. Yeah. Let them see there's more to it. Let them see that it doesn't mean just because you get your captain in power that everything changes. Right. Wake up. Stop living in fairy tale lands where, the good guy slays the dragon and all the world is happy.
Well, there was a tweet from a conservative in the States that said, watch out, we're Goliath. And someone was like, well, Goliath got killed. Like, David killed Goliath in that story. You're not who you think you are in this narrative.
But these dummies don't even know that.
I know. It's wild. But that's where the waking up is starting to happen. I've never seen so many people regret voting for Trump. That's for sure. But
well, he got booed at the Super Bowl. That was pretty wild. And meanwhile, American media put canned cheers in the background on certain networks.
I didn't know that. I thought they just booed Taylor Swift. That was the whole
They booed story. Taylor. They booed Donald. They booed everybody. Americans are not happy.
No, they're not.
But
and the world will feel that.
Yeah. Okay. Ontario election.
See, I hate it because I hate snap elections. I feel like conservatives love a snap election.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Crazy.
They do.
But you know what? Doug Ford is like, as horrific as he's been, he is, leading that whole pack of them down in Washington, I have to say.
He's got 50% of support. It's just insane. Mm-hmm. They're 2 weeks into a campaign and his numbers have barely moved. He's probably going to get 57% of the popular vote. It's
wild,
ludicrous. Yeah. The Schreiner campaign is doing okay. They're probably going to get 9-8% 8 to 9% of the vote.
Wow.
Aslan Clancy will probably hold on to her seat. Mike Schreiner will probably hold on to his seat.
I know the Sarah Jama stuff is all up in arms in Hamilton.
Merritt Stiles is the official opposition, and they've fallen behind even the Liberals there.
Yeah.
And like one of the last podcasts was 2 words: Jagmeet Singh.
Oof.
And they all agree. Jordan pushes back on them a number of times, but they all agree Jagmeet is just dragging that party down, even though he's not even part of it.
Well, we said a bunch of that stuff too to do with Susan that wasn't true in the end.
It's true.
So it could go, a different direction, but I don't see that with Ford. Like, he really has gotten he's seeing another day as he continually sees another day. It's wild. He's a wild character in Canadian politics. Unbelievable.
But way more tactful than someone like a Blaine or a
I was going to say his dearly departed brother, but.
Oh, Rob. Yeah. Way more. All right. We got 8 minutes left.
Okay.
Last 8 minutes. Thank you guys for sticking with us on this Valentine's Day. Love it or hate it. Fireside chat. St. John, #1 tariff threat to the country.
Big news.
Y'all knew it was coming. There was going to be one reason or another that 2025 was going to have St. John in the crosshairs nationally. So we are the #1 most at-risk city in Canada based on a review by the Canadian Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
To be losers if we go to a trade war.
Yes.
Love it or hate it?
Well, I hate it. But, it is 80% of that number is like 80% of 131% is because of Irving Oil.
Yeah, it's just the refinery spanking gasoline down into the States.
Yeah. And, essentially giving fuel to dozens and, tens and thousands of Americans. So it's not a pretty scene for us. And I don't know what the outcome's going to be there, because they talk about the auto industry, like Windsor's #3 at 61%.
Yeah.
And which is our, automotive area. And they're saying that will cease operations.
Yeah, but the problem there is like there's a dual part of that.
So 8 times a car comes back and forth.
Yeah. So Ford, GMC, all Chev, and a bunch of others, their auto parts are manufactured in Canada.
Yeah.
Many parts of the assembly line. So it's going to bring up the American producer of those car parts, but those American producers have not had to fill that type of capacity, so they won't be able to. So you're just going to see supply drop way off and prices jack.
Don't make anything.
Well, they'll make them, but they'll be way more expensive.
They're saying that they'll cease operations. Like, that's what the CEO of one of the companies was saying, because they won't sell. It will not.
Yeah, because they won't be able to afford to make them their own car. Right.
100%. So, but the amount of times that crosses the border, like, you think about that's 8 times. That's 8 times, 25% every single time that any piece of machinery is crossing over and back. So, that's not possible. Oil, I feel, at least has a better chance of having other buyers than just than this particular relationship that Windsor has with and many other little cities up there have. So I think that it's interesting to see that number. So obviously I hate that, but I love that there is also that opportunity to expand our horizons and to see what else is out there.
I love it. I love that St. John's the #1 on this, because it's going to be a hard punch. Hopefully St. Johners and New Brunswickers are up to the challenge to do hard things again, because
that's the thing.
Because the reality is, so here's something you guys probably don't know. And Janice Stein, I didn't look this up. Janice Stein said this on the Peter Mansford podcast on Monday. Critical minerals in Canada, incredibly undertapped. So if you're wondering, what are critical minerals? Those are everything that we need for advanced manufacturing, for computer chips, for AI development, for automation within machinery, for any of that. We're talking lithium, we're talking ore, we're talking copper, we're talking all kinds of things that we include. Critical minerals are basically the production and the refinement of critical minerals is captured by guess who? Guess who refines 86% and not produces? They don't pull it out of the earth, but they are the ones that can refine the raw material into the finished product?
USA.
China. 86%. They have spent their time making relationships in Africa, making relationships in South America, and now they have the capacity in China that refines 86% of all critical minerals for advanced manufacturing. Canada has a exorbitant amount of critical minerals. Even New Brunswick has some. So the number one investor in expanding Canada's critical mineral extraction, guess who?
Oh God, Elon Musk.
USA.
USA.
But not Elon Musk. It's a shadow company of the Department of Defense.
Oh.
Whatever DARPA became, I can't remember what the name of it is, but DARPA, which we're all sort of familiar with from all the spy movies.
Yeah.
DARPA became sort of the leading edge of defense, sort of innovation, spending, investment. And so this company, they have funded 3 mines in Canada in the last 5 years.
And we're not great with like mining regulations. We're slow.
We don't want to. We have
Yeah.
been hamstrung for over 20 years in Canada around natural resource extraction and development because environmentalism. And as much as I think that's very good for us to have an environmental lens about destruction, the reality is if the people who live near these mines and the workers who work these mines own that production, if we can figure out a model that doesn't privatize our common good resources like critical minerals, we can get there.
Yeah, like don't come in and just blast Canada. I mean, listen, we're fine doing that in third world countries, obviously.
Sorry, Congo.
And, yeah, right. Like we're perfectly fine there. And we wanted to talk about the Congo actually because of this, but I don't think we're gonna have enough time.
Well, we can if we want.
But it is interesting that we sort of have been maybe hoarding to a certain extent. Like we've asked all these other countries to give us those critical minerals for our cell phones, for whatever else we're importing or whatever, and we're not using our own yet. So it does kind of have that first world country ickiness to it.
100%. So why do I love it? Sorry to draw this out, everybody. Why do I love the fact that St. John's the most at risk? Because we also have the most potential. We have the most land availability. We have an airport that's incredibly underutilized that can be easily expanded, that has a very nice rail line from CN leading up to the edge of it. We have a port that has basically quadrupled in capacity output in the last 3 years. We have a CP rail line that is interconnected through the States and Canada. We can take those raw materials, and if we wanted to, and if we wanted to scale capacity, we got the blue collar workforce, we've got the logistics support to be able to move these refined critical minerals and resources around the world. Halifax doesn't have it. Moncton can't have it. They don't have a port. The Halifax cargo port is maxed. Yes, there's a place for that, but I'm just saying we are a deep water port. We're ice free. We have refinement capacity. We have hydrogen capacity in this province. Turn the risk, turn the threat into a win. It'll take 3 years. I know it will. Drop the $1 billion that needs to be dropped. Yes, that's crazy. Drop the $1 billion. Get the capacity built up here. Get those mines going in Central Ontario, Northern Ontario. Get Timmins online again and start railing and piping and flying this stuff.
I have my gold digger certificate from Timmins. I went to the gold mine there one
There
time.
you go.
Yeah, so let's go.
Let's go.
The children yearn for the mines, as they say. They love Minecraft.
Oh my gosh. Yes. It's time. So yes to Canada East.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, say
No.
it. Go. Just close the podcast.
No to fracking though.
No to fracking.
We have enough oil and gas. We don't need to pull it out anymore out right now. If we are going to frack, make sure it's the people who live there that own it. Make sure it's the workers who work there that own it.
Any new exploration like that needs to be nationally owned. We can't just have private investment, or else then we just have the U.S. in our backyard, in our midst all the time.
Or we'll be Flint, Michigan.
Yes.
With no drinking water and a mess and
Industry
derangement.
being like, "What's wrong with you? Why aren't you guys grateful?"
Correct.
we're here. Anyways, on that note.
It's a good point to sign off. Thank you, everybody. This was the NBPOLI Pod Valentine's Day Special Edition. Love it or hate it. Featuring Beatrix as always.
As always, we love you guys. Thanks for joining us this week. And we'll see you next week.